We do want to welcome you here today to our Don Kinsman virtual Market Lamb show. We're going to have 3 different classes of lambs, all within a weight range that makes it competitive for each of them. Our lightweight class, it's in this ring now. The lightest lamb weighs 93 pounds. And our heaviest lamb weighs 120. Our lightest lambs are to the right side of the judge, and the heaviest lambs are the ones that he's handling right now. We're going to judge these as we would here in a live show. And then all of these lambs have been scanned. And what that meant, we're going to have our chairman here explain that to you, but we're going to give the scores, tally them up, and then we're going to see on paper how they would have placed if they had been slaughtered and hung up on the rails. So this was the first class. We want to introduce our judge today is Mr. Dustin Cruitt from Illinois. He's a noted market lamb breeder himself, has a nationally acclaimed flock of club lamb type ewes as well as a great set of Columbias as well. Let's give Dustin a nice round of applause and a welcome here to our show this afternoon. We want to thank him also. This will be his final show to judge. He started at 9 o'clock Friday morning and has been working ever since. Don's going to explain how this whole program works for those of you that are watching around the ringside.
These lambs all have been ultrasoundically scanned for loin eye size and fat thickness. Those ultrasounds are being measured currently. Once we get the data back from that, we will plug that into a formula which predicts the percent boneless, closely trimmed retail cuts of each of these lambs. And then we will make our carcass placings from there. And then we will combine both carcass and live placings to see who came the highest in all our placings for our sweepstakes awards.
We start right here in our lightweight division. Great class to start with. Definitely got some differences. Young lady's lamb that wins the class is just the smooth, most correctly balanced one. One that you get your hands on her. She's got some shape down the backside of her shoulder. One that's big in terms of her loin edge. You get back behind her and she works a big old square hip. I think one that just holds herself together a notch better than our sheep that we have in second. Our second place ewe lamb is one that's probably, in my estimation, the most shapely in terms of a rack of anything in the class. One that's got some extra amount of shape out of the backside of her shoulder. I think one that if we can smooth up and square that one up out of her pin's head, she gives our class winner all she wants. I think they go 1-2 for me today. Young man's Dorset appearing sheep is one that is a notch bigger in terms of his frame size. You get your hands on this one. I think one that's got some shape down his back as well. He's square out of his hip. He gets around the ring. He's the longest bodied sheep of our top three. I think he's going to progressively keep getting better. He's got room to put that weight as we get him to higher weights. Same goes for the ewe lamb that we have in fourth. I think one that it just kind of logically fits into fourth for me today. She's got some extra rib in terms of her dimension. She's one that is maybe a notch softer in her handle today in comparison to those three that we have directly ahead of her. But I think one that is neat in her overall build. She's sound at the ground, and one that's square out of her hip. And we go ahead and conclude with the Dorper appearing lamb. I think one that in terms of a profile, in terms of a standpoint, she brings us a great big old loin. I think this one's got a big old rib in her. She's big in terms of her ends. One of those that we hang upside down, I think, is going to cut a tremendous carcass. Congratulations to all in our first class of market lambs.
Congratulations, exhibitors. We'll bring those top two back here for our champion drive here in a little while. In the meantime, we do want to, while we're bringing in our Group 2 class, we'll recognize our class winners here directly. Okay, it looks like our class is complete. We want to recognize the placings on our lightweight lamb class. First place honors went to Morrisville State University, part of the New York University system. The second place lamb in class was shown by Lloyd Billings from Maine. Third place was Evan Syme of Connecticut. Our fourth place lamb went to Emily Billings of Maine, and in fifth place was Sydney Phipps from Delaware. That was followed in sixth by Morgan Syme. Seventh was Tina Fisk Colt. Eighth place went to Evan Syme. Ninth place honors to Sue Billings. 10th was Liam Phipps. 11th, Vanessa Billings. 12th place honors were won by Sue Billings, and 13th went to Faustina Jarez. Our 14th place lamb was from the Hope Mayaker flock, and rounding out the class was Daniel Eppy.
logical lineup here in our middleweight division. I think our class winner does so pretty handily. I think a young lady gets out one drove. He's up in his chest. He's got some shape down his back. He's extremely fresh. He's big hipped. He's big ended. I think he just sorts himself to the top. From that point on, the young lady's sheep in seconds, maybe one that's not wanting to cooperate, but one that's ultra smooth and slick-hided, one that's firm and fresh to the touch, one that's got a big old loin edge in her. She's big-hipped. I think the second heaviest muscle one that we have out here. She slides into second pretty easy for me as well. As we get into three, I think one that is good in terms of her basic build, one that has got some rib shape, some body, some shape to her top side of her skeleton. Maybe not as firm to the touch as the two that we have directly ahead of her, but I think one that's big-hip, got some muscle, and is still skeletally extended. We get into the brockle there in four. I think one that, again, she's got some shape to her top. We just like to clean her up in her condition. She's carrying a little extra condition for me today. I still like her in four with that added dimension of rib shape and overall balance. And we go ahead and conclude with a super long-bodied Suffolk appearing lamb, one that's got some shape down her top as well. We just need to open that one up in the center portion of her rib cage and get a little more shape to that one to compete with those that we have directly ahead of her.
Congratulations, exhibitors, on a nice class of lambs. We'll share the results here with you once we get our third class in here. Here's the placings in our medium weight class. First place honors went to Callie Taylor from Pennsylvania. Our second place lamb was exhibited by Kelsey Dragilowitz of Connecticut. Third place honors was won by Addison Nicholson from Connecticut. And our fourth place market lamb went to Madeline Syme, also from Connecticut. The fifth place lamb was bred or exhibited by Andrew Huckowitz of Massachusetts. And in sixth was Emily Billings. Seventh place went to Cody Knoll. Our eighth place ewe lamb was from Jennifer Osgood. The ninth place ewe lamb was exhibited by Lloyd Billings, and in 10th place was Oliver Nicholson. Our 11th place ewe lamb was shown by Rachel Gately, and in 12th place also Rachel Gately. 13th place honors were won by Andrew Huckowitz, 14th to Joanna Jarez, and Daniel Eppy rounded out the class. While we're watching the splits on our first class of lambs we saw show, the lightest lamb weighed 93, and the heaviest in that class weighed 120. Our medium class we just got finished with had a 9-pound differential, with the lightest weighing 121 and the heaviest 129. In the class we're in now, to the judge's far right is the lightest lamb weighing in at 132. And to the far left is the heaviest lamb weighing 168.
We'll come out here in our heavyweight class. Obviously, the deepest class of the day. We got 5 or 6 or 7 individuals out here that are sure in contention to this deal. I think our first 2 individuals in this class, I'd sure like to combine them and make one. I think both of them bring some things to the table that are better than the other. A young lady sheep is definitely the trimmer, firmer handling one. I think one that is bigger racked and bigger muscled all the way through. I'd sure like to square that one up out of her tail head ever so slightly, but when she gets that one up and braced and stuck, I think he looks acceptable. He's, from a terminal market standpoint, I think one that he just rises to the top. Probably a notch better built one here in second. I think one that is square out of her hip, maybe not as much muscle, maybe not as much foot and bone under this one as we have in our class winner. I like the extra springer rib, one that's a notch softer in her handle in comparison to our class winner. I think they're awfully close. I think they're both high quality. Kind of a good one here in 3. I think one that's just neat in terms of her basic build. This one's got a big old wild loin in her. I think, a sheep that's got some shape out of the backside of her shoulder. She too is a notch softer in terms of her handle, but I think she logically goes into 3 for me. I think her basic build is good and her overall design is incredible. We get into 4. I think when I came out here in this particular drive, this is the one I wanted to start the class with. One of the bigger muscle ones out here, one of the bigger footed ones out here. You get your hands on this one. This one's a notch staler in terms of his handle. I think that one's getting a little bit more washed out in terms of his loin edge. But I think one in terms of his basic build, his overall structural makeup and muscle design, he has to stay in our top 4 here. And we go ahead and conclude with the young lady sheep that we line into 5. I think one that's a little finer in terms of her bone work and comparison to those that we have ahead of her, but one that's got a big old rack and a big old end in her. Congratulations.
Here are the results of our heavyweight class. First place went to Callie Taylor from Pennsylvania. Our second place lamb was shown by Brady Clark of New Hampshire. Third place was Morrisville State University of New York. The fourth place lamb was from Kelsey Jergilowitz from Connecticut. The fifth place lamb in the class was Austin Graham of Pennsylvania. Standing in sixth, we had Addison Nicholson, followed by Colby Clark. Eighth was Brady Clark. The ninth place lamb was shown by Austin Graham, and in 10th was Madeline Syme. 11th place was Morgan Syme. 12th place honors to Alicia Howe. 13 to Adam Jarez. 14 Joanna Jarez, and 15th to Katie Drum.
As we get out here to select our champion, I think there's one that needs to win, and he does so pretty handily for me. I think from that point on, we've got some different options and approaches to take. I understand we're going to pick 4 of these, so I'll go out and get you 4 to run there in their champion reserve and your honorable mentions. But congratulations, and let's give these kids a big round of applause. It's been a great show.
Congratulations to Callie Taylor for her overall Grand Champion Market Lamb. And congratulations also to Callie for the Reserve Champion. Our commended, and we need to get pictures of all 4 of these too. Our commended lamb goes to, highly commended, went to Colby Clark. And our commended went to Kelsey Jurgilowitz was the commended lamb.